So ano naman itong constitutional limitations? These are restrictions specifically imposed by the Philippine Constitution on the government's power to tax. So kung yung inherent limitations is hindi na kailangan ng constitutional provision, itong constitutional limitations, nakasaad talaga ito sa ating Constitution. So yung makikita natin na mga constitutional provisions in the Constitution ay hindi sila grant of power of taxation, but constitutional limitations. They are limitations to the exercise of the state's power to tax. These safeguards protect citizens' rights and ensure the integrity of the taxation system. So, it means that yung pag-exercise ng state ng power of taxation, hindi siya absolute dahil meron siyang limitations, no? Either inherent or constitutional. So kindly take note of these cases, no, for your further study. Now, maraming constitutional limitations nakalagay sa ating constitution. Isa na dyan yung due process, equal protection, religious freedom, non-impairment of obligations of contracts, freedom of speech and expression, merong presidential power to grant reprieves, communications, and pardons, and remit fines and forfeitures. No taking of private property for public use without just compensation. This is power of eminent domain. Ano pa? Prohibition against imprisonment for non-payment of poll tax. Meaning to say, kapag hindi ka daw nakabayad ng sedula, hindi ka pwedeng i-imprison. No? Exception yan sa rule natin na yung violation kasi ng tax laws, penal in nature kasi yan. So, kung hindi ka nagbayad ng tax, nag-evade ka, ng payment ng tax, you will be imprisoned. So, except for non-payment of poll tax. Okay? Uniformity and equality of taxation, we will discuss it later. Grant by Congress of authority to the President to impose tariff rates. Prohibition against taxation of religious, charitable entities and educational entities. Prohibition against taxation of non-stock, non-profit educational institutions. Majority vote of Congress for a grant of tax exemption. Prohibition on use of tax levied for special purpose. President's veto power on appropriation revenue tariff bills. Non-impairment of jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Grant of power to the local government units to create its own sources of revenue. So, sabi pa, yung power daw ng local government units, hindi na daw siya mere delegated power, but it is a constitutional power. It is a constitutional grant of power. Flexible tariff clause, exemption from real property taxes, and no appropriation or use of public money for religious purposes. Okay. Let's have a break, class. Break muna tayo. Okay, class. Let's resume. So let's start with due process and equal protection of law requirement. So this is from Section 1, Article 3, 1987 Constitution, which states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. So let's take up this case of Villegas versus Hu Chong Tai Pao Ho, GR number L-29646, November 10, 1978. So the ordinance in question violates the due process of law and equal protection rule of the Constitution. So requiring a person before he can be employed to get a permit from the city mayor of Manila, who may withhold or refuse it at will, is tantamount to denying him the basic right of the people in the Philippines to engage in a means of livelihood. While it is true that the Philippines as a state is not obliged to admit aliens within its territory, once an alien is admitted, he cannot be deprived of life without due process of law. This guarantee includes the means of livelihood, the shelter of protection under the due process and equal protection clause is given to all persons, both aliens and citizens. So, ano palang nangyari dito na case? So, ang case dito is nagpasa ng ordinance, no, yung City of Manila requiring yung mga foreigners, no, to get a permit, no, from the city mayor before daw sila makapagtrabaho sa City of Manila. So, nag-file ngayon ng case yung, Nag-file ngayon ng case yung foreigner. So, question niya yung particular ordinance. So, yung ruling ng Supreme Court na it is a denial daw of due process and equal protection of the laws. Kasi nga, parang there is no standard that was set daw in the ordinance as to the application, no, of the imposition of the permit fee. So, lahat daw ng foreigners, no, whether kung, tapos fixed yung amount ng permit fee niya. The foreigner complained na masyado daw mahal daw masyado, tapos walang distinctions daw na nilagay, walang classification as to, let's say, yung malaki ang sweldo or mababang sweldo. So yun yung mga reklamo ng foreigner with respect to that ordinance. Na wala daw siyang standard upon which mag-base yung city mayor in imposing the permit fee or in collecting the permit fee. So it gave the city mayor parang unbridled discretion to determine whether or not to give the permit to the foreigner. So that was the reasoning, no, of the Supreme Court in declaring the ordinance as unconstitutional. Next case is Commissioner of Customs versus Hypermix Feeds Corporation, GR number 179579, decided in February 1, 2012. So before I continue, no, balikan muna natin yung principle ng due process. When you say due process class, it refers to substantial due process and procedural due process. When you say substantial due process, kumbaga yung requirement dyan is that dapat yung law hindi siya nag-contrary to the inherent and constitutional limitations. So ganun yung substantial due process. When you say procedural due process, it means na dapat there must be notice and hearing or opportunity to be heard. So ganun yung explanation ng procedural due process. Example, if the passage of the law, nag-follow ba siya ng procedure, ng proper procedure for its passage? So if hindi, meron bang publication of the law? Na-comply ba yung publication requirement ng batas? So kapag hindi, so that parang violates procedural due process. Or if, for example, meron kang natanggap na assessment from the BIR, I mean, final demand from the BIR, dumaan ba siya doon sa assessment process na kailangan merong letter of authority, the next, merong pre-assessment notice bago siya naging final demand? So, ganun yung example ng procedural due process. So, let's proceed now with this case of Commissioner of Customs versus Hypermix Feeds Corporation. So the question issuance here is CMO 27-2003. Ito ay in-issue ng Commissioner of Customs. So for tariff purposes, no, wheat was classified according to the following. So meron silang in-issue na memorandum order na classify nila yung wheat, no, as to importer or consignee, country of origin, and port of discharge. The regulation provided an exclusive list of corporations, ports of discharge, commodity, descriptions, and countries of origin. Depending on these factors, wheat would be classified either as food grade or feed grade. So kapag food grade daw, 3% yung kanilang tariff. Pag feed grade, 7%. So ngayon, ito si Hypermix Feeds Corporation, nag-file siya ngayon ng petition for declaratory relief with the RTC of Las Piñas. So, kinestyon niya yung CMO 27-2003. So, ang grounds niya is violation daw yan ng Due Process and Equal Protection Clause dahil wala daw prior notice and publication per revised administrative code and the classification is without basis. So, kumbaga, niraise niya na wala daw substantial classification. Hindi niya na-meet yung test of valid classification under the Constitution para ma-distinguish natin or i-classify natin yung food grade or feed grade ba siya na wheat, parang ganon. Kasi iba-iba yung kanilang tax rate, no? 3% tsaka 7% respectively. So, as a reference, Book 7, Chapter 2 of the Revised Administrative Code provides, no, Section 3, filing. Every agency shall file with the University of the Philippines Law Center 3 certified copies of every rule adopted by it. Rules in force on the date of effectivity of this code, which are not filed within 3 months from the date, shall not thereafter be the basis of any sanction against any party or persons. Section 9, public participation. So ito daw yung na-violate ng CMO, ng Memorandum Order. If not otherwise required by law, an agency shall, as far as practicable, publish or circulate notices of proposed rules and afford interested parties the opportunity to submit their views prior to the adoption of any rule. So before daw mag-release ng mga orders or mga circulars, yung mga agency, kailangan meron daw public participation. Mag-inform muna sila sa public or yung mga interested parties or affected na mga taxpayers para makapagbigay sila ng kanilang views, no, regarding the implementing rule. In the fixing of rates, no rule or final order shall be valid unless the proposed rates shall have been published in a newspaper of general circulation at least 2 weeks before the first hearing thereon. In case of opposition, the rules on contested cases shall be observed. So these are the provisions that were raised, no, or cited, no, by Hypermix, no, in its petition for declaratory relief. Ngayon, ano yung ruling ng Supreme Court? When an administrative rule is merely interpretative in nature, its applicability needs nothing further than its bare issuance, for it gives no real consequence more than what the law itself has already prescribed. So, ibig sabihin, kung yung daw issuance or administrative issuance ng isang agency ay implementation lang ng kung ano ang nakasaad sa batas or interpretation lang siya in nature kung ano yung nakalagay sa batas, then there is no need for the requirement, no, the applicability of the revised administrative code, no, with respect to the filing and the public participation. However, when on the other hand, the administrative rule goes beyond merely providing for the means that can facilitate or render least cumbersome the implementation of the law, but substantially increases the burden of those governed, it behooves the agency to accord, at least to those directly affected, a chance to be heard and thereafter to be duly informed before that new issuance is given the force and effect of law. Because petitioners failed to follow the requirements enumerated by the revised administrative code, the sealed regulation must be struck down. So, ang nangyari dito, class, kumbaga, nag-issue sila ng CMO without the requisite filing, no, in the University of the Philippines Law Center of 3 certified copies, no, of that rule. And wala ding public participation. And ang nangyari is that parang merong additional na nilagay yung yung customs, yung Bureau of Customs na provision which is not provided for, no, in the law from which the CMO was based, no. So nag-add sila ng classification. Further classify nila yung wheat, no, into food grade tsaka feed grade. Tapos iba yung kanilang tax rate na mag-apply. So, kaya parang nabigla itong Hypermix Corporation with respect to the classification, no, na parang ang na-apply yata sa kanila dito is 7% yata, kaya nagreklamo sila. So the Equal Protection Clause means that no person or class of persons shall be deprived of the same protection of laws enjoyed by other persons or other classes in the same place in like circumstances. Thus, the guarantee of the equal protection of laws is not violated if there is a reasonable classification. Kumbaga, Hypermix here invoked that there is no reasonable classification. Bakit daw i-classify natin yung wheat as food tsaka feed grade, 'di ba? Wala daw substantial basis for the classification. Wait lang, class ha. Okay. So, kumbaga, sabi ni Hypermix na wala daw reasonable classification. Walang nakalagay sa CMO, bakit natin i-classify yung wheat into food grade and, ano nga yun? Food. Kalimutan ko talaga siya. Food grade and feed grade. Oh, ganon. So, kaya kinestyon niya yung rule or yung regulation on the basis of Equal Protection Clause. So the Supreme Court, in discussing equal protection, provides the requisites. Paano ba maging reasonable yung classification? Number one, it must rest on substantial distinctions. Dapat meron talagang basis yung distinction na magkaiba talaga yung dalawang bagay. Before you apply a law different from the other. Parang you apply a law for this group and then a different law for this group. Parang ganon. Second is, it must be germane to the purpose of the law. Third, it is not limited to existing conditions only. And fourth, it applies equally to all members of the same class. So, therefore, yung ruling ng Supreme Court, hindi valid yung regulation insofar as the classification, as well as na-violate din yung due process because the agency failed to comply with the procedural requirements for the issuance of the said regulation. Next principle or next constitutional limitations on taxation is the uniformity in taxation law or taxation rule. The rule of taxation shall be uniform and equitable. The Congress shall evolve a progressive system of taxation. This is provided for under Section 28, Paragraph 1, Article 3 of the 1987 Constitution. Ngayon yung question. Does taxation prohibit classification? What do you think? Bawal ba yung classification in taxation? Kailangan ba lahat uniform, applicable siya? Kunyari, 10%, 10% lahat. So, the answer to that is this. Uniformity has been defined as that principle by which all taxable articles or kinds of property of the same class shall be taxed at the same rate. Sabi dyan, articles or kinds of property of the same class. So meaning, kung hindi similar, kung different class sila, so hindi bawal na i-tax natin sila differently, di ba? Kasi yung requirement lang naman is dapat similar sila. Same class shall be taxed at the same rate. So kung sabihin natin kung lupa, ang itatax natin, kunya sabihin natin 7%, itax natin real property tax sa lupa. So, lahat ng lupa yan. Kasi same class sila. Hindi pwede na yung lupa sa Luzon, 7%, yung lupa sa Mindanao, 10%. Hindi dapat ganon. Similar dapat yung kanilang tax rate kasi same class siya. Pero kung sabihin natin lupa versus cars, hindi magkaparehas yun. Hindi yun same class kasi yung car is a personal property while lupa is a real property. So pwede nating i-classify. Ibahin natin yung tax treatment for cars. Ganon. So uniformity in taxation, therefore, does not prohibit the classification of the objects of taxation or the entities or subjects upon which taxes are imposed. However, to withstand any constitutional infirmity, such classification must comply with certain guidelines. Kaya lang, para hindi ma-abuse yung pag-exercise natin ng taxation power, kailangan meron tayong requisites, no? Merong mga guidelines na dapat i-comply. Okay? So related ito doon sa reasonable classification, no? Ano yun? Number one, it must rest on substantial distinction. Dapat magkaiba talaga sila. No? Second, it must be germane to the purpose of the law. Dapat yung distinction na yan is related siya sa purpose why we enacted the law. O, bigyan ko kayo ng example, no? Sa actual experience. Meron kaming ordinance na proposed ordinance, no, sa aming sanggunian. Ipasa siya parang to give free school materials to the students. So, parang free educational materials, like example, ball pen, lapis, papel, notebook, ganon, or eraser, parang ganon. So, magbigay daw ng free educational materials for elementary school students. Ngayon, dahil limited lang yung funds, no, maliit lang yung funds, no, for that program. So nilimit nila yung beneficiaries. So bibigyan lang daw nila ay yun daw mga students na parang yung hindi ganun sila makatapos ng elementary kasi slow learners sila, yung mga ganun na students. May special class kasi yan daw sila, yung mga students na ganyan. Meron silang special class na ginagawa yung DepEd. So, sila lang daw ang bigyan ng free educational materials. Pero ngayon, merong nag-question, na-raise na question. At tapos, meron ding isa doon na parang restriction or parang qualification na dapat daw hindi siya four-piece beneficiary or hindi siya beneficiary of ganing mga grants or mga subsidy from the government. Parang ganon. Like four-piece, yung parents niya, hindi dapat four-piece beneficiary, ganon, etc. Or similar benefits para maka-avail ng free educational materials. So ngayon, it was put in issue na na question siya. Bakit, anong kaibahan daw ng mga students na yung mga students that are classified as low learners, tapos meron silang special class, sa mga students na parang they are on the regular side, di ba? Parang ano daw difference nila? Parang we are giving daw premium doon sa mga parang slow learners than those students na parang regular yung kanilang pag-graduate, yung pagtapos nila. So, yung hindi slow learner, parang ganun. So, and then, bakit daw discriminate yung mga students na four-piece beneficiary yung kanilang parents? Ano ba ang reason or ang ground to make that distinction na bakit yung mga four-piece beneficiary, hindi sila entitled to a free educational materials? And then yung mga hindi four-piece beneficiaries entitled to free educational materials. So ano daw yung reason behind? So ganon yung yung question. So later on, na-realize ko na tama naman, no? Tama naman. Wala siyang reasonable classification. Kasi kung ang purpose mo in enacting that ordinance is to provide free educational materials to students who cannot to the students who cannot afford, kasi yun yung nakalagay sa ordinance na doon daw sa mga hindi maka-afford ng yung poor, mga ganon. So dapat bigyan daw sila ng free education materials. Pero ngayon, sabi ng isang ah, member na SB member na lahat naman ng nasa public school hindi naman yan talaga sila mayaman, 'di ba? So kaya nga nasa public school sila, 'di ba? So therefore, parang presumed yan sila that they need educational support, no, from the government, no? They need educational materials kasi nga hindi sila lahat ng mga nandyan sa mga public school, ano yan sila, parang hindi lang sila well off, hindi yan sila mayayaman, no? Parang although merong mga trabaho yung mga parents nila, pero hindi sila ganun ka well off or ka yung kanilang status in life na masabi mo na hindi sila poor, hindi sila yung parang masabi mo na some of them hindi poor. So parang i-presume mo daw na yan sila lahat, nangangailangan yan sila ng support from the government. So ganon, no? Tapos, bakit daw i-discriminate yung mga parents with four-piece beneficiary? Ano daw ang relasyon niya doon sa purpose ng batas? So, ganun. So, ang nangyari, binago yung ordinance. Lahat sila bibigyan ng, ng educational materials. Pero ang problema lang, na na parang hindi siya na push through kasi nga due to limited funding. Parang ganon. So, yun ang parang actual example natin for reasonable classification, no? So, bigyan ko kayo ng another example. Like ako, nagpasa ako ng ordinance. Yung ordinance ko is, bigyan namin ng subsidy yung mga solo parent na yung income nila is below minimum wage. So, yun yung yung purpose ko is, bigyan ng subsidy yung mga solo parent whose income is below minimum wage. Yan yung aking ordinance. So, ngayon, nilagay ko doon, meron bang reasonable classification doon? Kasi yung binigyan lang natin na solo parent is yung below minimum wage lang. Kasi ang reason is that, of course, mahirap pagpalaki ng bata, di ba? Mahirap mag solo parent ka to maintain the household. Mahirap yun. So, wala kang husband, di ba? Wala kang husband to support you or wife to support you, wala kang katuwang. So, difficult yan difficult talaga mag-support no ng family. So, therefore, kung below yung minimum wage mo, parang you need support from the government. Parang ganun yung essence niya. So, I believe for me, kasi ako nagpasa nun, it was, the classification was reasonable. And meron din akong basis, no? Merong law kasi, yung Solo Parent Act, sabi doon kasi, minimum wage earners, kumbaga, yung bigyan lang ng subsidy are those earning income below minimum wage or minimum wage and below. So, kaya doon lang din ako nag-base sa aking ordinance. So, therefore, the law was based on reasonable classification. Now, let's go to tax exemption of religious, charitable, and educational institutions. And this is a very important provision no, in the Constitution. Section 28, paragraph 3, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution provides charitable institutions, churches, and personages or convents pertinent thereto, mosques, non-profit cemeteries, and all lands, buildings, and improvements actually, directly, and exclusively used for religious, charitable, or educational purposes shall be exempt from taxation. So take note here that the tax involved here is only real property tax. Okay? Real property tax lang po ang pinag-uusapan dito under Section 28. And why is that? Take note of the statement, no? The provision, it refers only to lands, buildings, and improvements. Therefore, yung subject dito ng tax are real properties, no? So kaya ang tax lang na exempt dito is real property tax. take note of the terms actually, directly, and exclusively, no? Kasi that is a very important criteria in determining whether the land, building, or improvement is subject to real property tax, no? That land, building, and improvement must be actually, directly, and exclusively used for religious, charitable, or educational purposes in order to be exempt from real property tax. So yan ang sabi ng ating Constitution. And the test used here by the Supreme Court in applying the exemption, no, from real property tax is usage and not ownership. So hindi natin tinitingnan kung sino ang may-ari. So, kunyari, yung property is owned by a private person pero ginagamit siya as a church, ginagamit siya as a school, ginagamit siya as a non-profit cemetery. So, dahil test of usage ang ating basihan, hindi natin tinitingnan yung ownership. Therefore, regardless of the ownership of the property, for as long as it is used actually, directly, and exclusively for religious, charitable, or educational purposes, then that real property will be exempted from real property tax. Ibahin natin yung facts. Sabihin natin, yung may-ari is church, pero ginagamit siya for commercial purposes. Question, is it exempted from real property tax just because it is owned by the church? So balikan natin yung test. Sabi ng batas, usage, hindi ownership. So even if the property is owned by a church, the fact that it is used for commercial purposes removes it from the coverage of Section 28, Paragraph 3, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. Therefore, it is subject to real property tax. Now, exempt revenue used for educational purposes. So, isali na lang din natin ito na provision, no? Under Article 14, Section 4, Paragraph 3 of the 1987 Constitution because related ito ng mga provisions. Okay, maraming mga cases, no, that parang uses these provisions together, no? So, ano itong provision na ito? All revenues and assets of non-stock, non-profit educational institutions used actually, directly, for a while lang class ha. All revenues and assets of non-stock, non-profit educational institutions used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes shall be exempt from taxes and duties. Take note here na yung subject matter ng tax dito ay revenue and assets, not real properties only. Okay? So, there is a separate constitutional provision, no, with respect to educational purposes, no? Upon the dissolution or cessation of the corporate existence of such institutions, their assets shall be disposed of in the manner provided by law. Okay, proprietary educational institutions, including those cooperatively owned, may likewise be entitled to such exemption subject to the limitations provided by law, including restrictions on dividends and provisions for reinvestment. So, listen very carefully. So, this provision refers to educational institutions class. Okay? Ganito. May dalawang klase na educational institution. First is a government educational institution, gaya ng UP, gaya ng USEP, gaya ng DNSC. These are government educational institutions. And the second one is private educational institutions. And private educational institutions are further classified into proprietary educational institutions and non-stock, non-profit educational institutions. Ayan. I hope you got the classifications, no? Because it is very important in taxation, no, to differentiate or to distinguish these institutions, no, education institutions. Kasi iba-iba yung kanilang tax treatment. Ngayon, sa government educational institutions, walang question dyan, class. Remember, we do not tax our government entities, di ba? Government instrumentalities. So therefore, hindi exempted yung mga government, di ba? Exempted yung government education institutions kasi they are part of the government, no? Ngayon, punta tayo sa private educational institutions. Yung private educational institutions, sabi dito sa Article 14, dalawang klase. Number 1 is proprietary, yung isa naman non-stock, non-profit. Ayan. So, importante alam natin kung proprietary ba or non-stock or non-profit. Paano natin malalaman? Tingnan natin yung kanilang charter, yung kanilang creation. Paano ba na-create ito na educational institution? Kung yan ay corporation, tingnan mo yung kanilang articles of incorporation. Kung nakalagay ba doon non-stock, non-profit, di ba? So, meaning to say, it's a non-stock, non-profit. Kung hindi naman, edi proprietary, di ba? Okay, ano? For non-stock, non-profit education institution, sabi ng batas, lahat ng kanyang revenue tsaka assets that are actually, directly, and exclusively used for educational purposes are exempted from taxes and duties. Take note, class, wala siyang sinabi anong klaseng taxes, anong klaseng duties yan. So, ibig sabihin, all-encompassing ito na provision. Wala ding nakalagay subject to the limitations provided by law. So, meaning to say, the Congress cannot provide for limitations kasi hindi nakalagay dyan eh. May subject siya for limitations provided by law. On the other hand, proprietary educational institutions, pwede daw sila. May likewise be entitled to such exemptions. Pwede daw exempted yung kanilang revenues and assets. Pero subject siya sa limitations provided by law, no? So kung ano yung batas na ipasa ng Congress. Now let's take up this case of CIR versus De La Salle University Incorporated, GR number 196596, decided on November 9, 2016. So what is the subject in this case? There is a formal letter of demand, no, from the BIR assessing the LSU of deficiency income taxes on rental earnings from restaurants or canteens and bookstores operating within campus. So merong mga restaurant, merong mga bookstore doon sa inside, no, the DLSU campus. Tapos VAT on business income and documentary stamp tax on loans and lease contracts. Ngayon, may reklamo ngayon sa DLSU. It invokes its exemption under Article 14, Section 4, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution, which provides that all assets and revenues of non-stock, non-profit educational institutions used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes are exempt from taxes and duties. Sabi niya, paano ako maging liable? All-encompassing yung provisions ng Article 14, Section 4, Paragraph 3. Sabi niya, lahat ng assets at revenues ko exempted from taxation. Further, the LSU invokes the principle of uniformity in taxation, which mandates that for similarly situated parties, the same set of evidence should be appreciated and weighed in the same manner. Kasi meron ding inassess yung BIR dito, yung Ateneo, tapos parang same lang daw sila ng evidence with Ateneo. Bakit daw sa Ateneo, kinancel lahat yung assessment? Sa kanila, partially canceled lang. So may mga portion na the Supreme Court the court allowed the taxes and may mga portion na kinancel. Ganon. So, bakit hindi daw same yung application sa kanila? So, in-invoke niya yung uniformity and taxation. CIR opposes DLSU's claim for tax exemption on the basis of Section 30, Paragraph H of the Tax Code, which provides, the following organizations shall not be taxed under this title in respect to income received by them as such. H, a non-stock and non-profit education institution. Pero meron niyang additional provision under Section 30. Notwithstanding the provisions of the preceding paragraphs, the income of whatever kind and character of the foregoing organizations from any of their properties, real or personal, or from any of their activities conducted for profit, regardless of the disposition made of such income, shall be subject to tax imposed under this code. So ngayon, meron ng conflict. Sabi ng Article 14, all revenues and assets exempted, now that are actually directly and exclusively used for educational purposes are exempt from taxes and duties. Pero sabi ngayon ng Section 30 under the NIRC, regardless daw of the disposition, kapag hindi yan siya, pag it is conducted for profit, no? Kapag conducted na siya for profit daw, pag nag-receive ka na ng profit dyan, subject ka na to income tax. Yan yung sabi ng Section 30, even if you are a non-stock, non-profit education institution. Okay? DLSU invokes the principle of uniformity in taxation, which mandates that for similarly, ayan, nasabi ko na kanina, proceed tayo. Ano ngayon yung ruling ng Supreme Court? So the Supreme Court cited Article 14, Section 4, Paragraph 3 of the 1987 Constitution. Sabi niya, dalawa daw yung kinds of private educational institutions. One is non-stock, non-profit, and the other one is proprietary educational institutions. Yun yung question dito. Did the 1997 Tax Code qualify the tax exemption constitutionally granted to non-stock, non-profit educational institutions? The answer of the Supreme Court is no. The last paragraph of Section 30 of the Tax Code is without force and effect with respect to non-stock, non-profit educational institutions, provided that the non-stock, non-profit educational institutions prove that its assets and revenues are used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes. Balikan natin yung provision under Article 14, Section Article 14. Sabi doon, walang nakalagay doon that it is subject to the limitations provided for by law. Therefore, hindi pwede yung Congress magawa siya ng batas, mag-add siya ng additional requirement or mag-add siya ng additional qualification than that provided under the Constitution. Yung interpretation ng BIR with respect to the last provision of Section 30, hindi daw proper, sabi ng Supreme Court. Kasi the only qualification required by the Constitution in order for non-profit, non-stock educational institutions to avail of the tax exemption is for them to prove that their assets and revenues are used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes. Kung ma-prove lang nila na ginamit nila yung proceeds, kahit na it is, kahit na nakakuha sila ng profit from their canteens, from their bookstores, basta yung profit na yan, ginamit lang nila for educational purposes. Kunyari, binili nila ng nag-construct sila ng expansion ng bookstore or expansion ng library ng school, or kunyari nag-expand sila sa kanilang rooms, ginamit nila for their rooms ng kanilang mga estudyante. So therefore, justified pa rin yung kanilang assets and revenues. that they are used actually directly exclusively for educational purposes. Therefore, exempted pa rin sila from income taxation. Regardless kung ito ay parang naging revenue raising na siya ba. May example niyan kasi isa, yung hospital, no? Yung hospital. Ay, iba pala yung hospital, eris class. Okay? So yan yung qualification for non-stock, non-profit educational institutions, no? I-prove lang nila that the revenues and assets are used actually directly and exclusively for educational purposes. Take note class ha, i-prove nila. Hindi pwede presumed. Just because you are registered as a non-stock, non-profit educational institution, automatic exempted ka agad. No. It's a different issue, no? It's a different issue. Kailangan mo muna i-prove, no, na ginamit mo talaga yan for educational purposes. The tax exemption constitutionally granted to non-stock, non-profit education institutions is not subject to limitations imposed by law. Yun yung sabi ko. The tax exemption granted by the Constitution to non-stock, non-profit education institution is conditioned only on the actual, direct, and exclusive use of their assets, revenues, and income for educational purposes. We find that unlike Article 6, Section 28, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution, pertaining to charitable institutions, churches, parsonages, or convents, mosques, and nonprofit cemeteries, which exempts from tax only the assets, no? Example, lands, buildings, and improvements, actually directly and exclusively used for religious, charitable, or educational purposes. Article 14, Section 4, Paragraph 3 categorically states that all revenues and assets used actually directly and exclusively for educational purposes shall be exempt from taxes and duties. So, yung mga yung mga charitable, yung mga churches, non-profit cemeteries, real property tax lang yung exempted sila. Pero yung mga educational institutions, meron silang special provision, no? If it is a non-stock, non-profit, lahat ng kanilang assets saka pati kanilang revenues that are actually directly exclusively for educational purposes exempted din from taxation. Ano ang reason behind that exemption? Ang reason kasi dyan, class, is that parang they are sharing or contributing, no, in the government's burden to provide free education, di ba, to the people, no? So, kasi supposedly, yung government natin, they should provide free education, pero kulang kasi yung funds ng government in order to support free education, limited lang yung funds, marami kasing concerns. So kaya nagbibigay sila ng incentives, no, to private institutions, no, that take the responsibility, no, to give free education. So, ganun yan siya ang reason. Okay? Kaya merong preferential o parang merong malaki yung privilege or added privilege yung mga educational institutions. Now, in this case, ma-learn natin, different pala yung treatment, no, with respect to taxation of revenues and taxation of assets, no? So, what are revenues? This consists of the amounts earned by a person or entity from the conduct of business or operations. It may refer to the sale of goods, rendition of services, or the return of an investment. Revenue is a component of the tax base in income tax, VAT, and local business tax. So yung revenue class, ito ay parang halin. Parang halin jud siya, no? It is an increase, no, or a return of investment or a return of capital. No, that is revenue. Assets naman, on the other hand, are the tangible and intangible properties owned by a person or entity. It may refer to real estate, cash deposit in a bank, investment in the stocks of a corporation, inventory of goods, or any property from which the person or entity may derive income or use to generate the same. In Philippine taxation, the fair market value of real property is a component of the tax base in real property tax. Also, the landed cost of imported goods is a component of the tax base in VAT on importation and tariff duties. Okay? Thus, when a non-stock, non-profit educational institution proves that it uses its revenues actually directly and exclusively for educational purposes, it shall be exempted from income tax, VAT, and local business tax. So, on the other hand, when it also shows that it uses its assets in the form of real property for educational purposes, it shall be exempted from real property tax. To be clear, proving the actual use of the taxable item will result in an exemption, but the specific tax from which the entity shall be exempted shall depend on whether the item is an item of revenue or asset. So pwedeng you are a non-stock, non-profit educational institution, exempt ka from income tax, pero pwede kang ma-liable for real property tax. Kasi yung real property tax, hindi siya based on ownership. No? It is based on the actual usage, no, of the property. So kung kunyari yung non-stock, non-profit educational institution, meron siyang property, it was rented for commercial purposes, not for educational purposes, then it is subject to real property tax. Subject siya. Pero kung yung income, but the income derived from the rental of property, even if it is for commercial purpose, for as long as the income is used for educational purposes, no? Yung ultimate use ng income is ginamit pa rin for educational purposes, regardless of the source of income, kung ginamit ba siya for commercial, yung pagparent mo is yung mga commercial yun sila doon, basta yung income doon is ginamit mo for educational purposes, exempt ka pa rin from income tax. Okay? Income tax, VAT, tsaka local business tax. Tapos, with respect to the uniformity of taxation, sabi ng Supreme Court, error yung application ni DLSU with respect to uniformity of taxation. Hindi ibig sabihin na parehas sila ng standing ng Ateneo, similar din yung appreciation ng evidence, no? Similar sila with respect to their status as non-stock, non-profit educational institution, pero with respect to their evidence, iba-iba daw yung parang the court will appreciate their evidence differently kasi iba-iba sila na taxpayer, no? Kasi hindi naman na kung ano yung evidence ni Ateneo, hindi din similar sa evidence ni DLSU. Therefore, kung kunyari, yung evidence ni DLSU is kulang in order to satisfy the court, no, of its claims, therefore, hindi pwedeng sabihin ni DLSU na, bakit si Ateneo inalaw nyo? Sa akin hindi. Siguro, iba lang talaga yung sufficiency and materiality of the evidence that was presented by DLSU than that of Ateneo. Yan yung sabi ng Supreme Court here, no, na it doesn't mean na magkaparehas sila ng status in taxation. Yung evidence nila, similar din yung appreciation ng court. So our next topic is a non-stock, non-profit, charitable institution or non-stock, non-profit hospital. So in this case, summarize ko na lang, yung BIR, nag-issue siya ng deficiency tax notice to St. Luke's Medical Center. So sabi ni BIR na meron kang mga unpaid income tax, value-added tax from those income that you derive from your collection from paying patients. Kasi St. Luke's here is a hospital. Isa siyang hospital. So, sabi ni BIR, dahil may mga income ka from paying patients, so yung income na yon dapat subject daw siya sa income tax based on Section 30E of the National Internal Revenue Code. So, merong provision doon kasi na if daw you derive income from whatever sources, now whatever kind of income na ma-derive mo from whatever sources that are for profit na mga income, regardless daw of disposition, such income will be subject to income tax. Yan yung contention ng BIR. So, ngayon, of course naman, dahil umabot sila sa case, nag-dispute talaga ito sa St. Luke's Medical Center. Sabi niya, sabi ng Constitution, I am exempted. Ano sabi niya? And then there is also an equivalent provision under Section 30 of the NIRC, which says that a non-stock, non-profit, charitable institution shall be exempt from income tax, sabi ng St. Luke's Medical Center. So ngayon, of course, yun na yung pinag-awayan nila kung ano ba talaga ang totoo, no? Medyo ang decision ng Supreme Court dito, class, is that they decided against St. Luke's. Okay? So, bakit medyo ano siya, parang ano ba, parang mag-wonder ka, bakit against St. Luke's? Because in our previous discussion, we said na in a non-stock, non-profit educational institution, kahit na yung income is from a paying clients or from a profitable source, provided the use of that income is actually directly and exclusively for educational purposes, sabi ng batas, exempted ka from income tax. Pero why is it here in St. Luke's, iba yung ruling ng Supreme Court? Sabi ng Supreme Court dito, even if St. Luke's passed the test of charity, meaning, oo, tama, St. Luke's Hospital or medical is a non-stock, non-profit charitable institution, no question on that. Hindi daw automatic na siya ay exempted from income tax. Dahil nakalagay daw sa Section 30E of the NIRC, merong requisites to be exempted. Sabi niya, number 1, it must be a non-stock corporation or association. Paano mo malalaman that it is a non-stock corporation? You look at the articles of incorporation, kung paano siya na-organized. Second, it must be organized exclusively for charitable purposes. Dapat yung primary purpose niya na nakalagay sa articles of incorporation must be for charitable purposes. At hindi lang yan. Hindi lang dapat sa papel nakikita na you are organized for charitable purposes. Your operations must also be exclusively for charitable purposes. Yan ang sabi ng batas. Yan yung pangatlong requisites. And the last requisite is, no part of its net income or asset shall belong to or inure to the benefit of any member, organizer, officer, or any specific person. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Ang ibig sabihin, hindi sila nagdi-distribute ng dividends. Walang sharing of income to the officers, members, or directors. Or ang tawag nila dyan is mga trustees kasi non-stock sila, di ba? So, yan yung requisites. Okay? Pero, although there is a provision in the NIRC that says that a non-stock, non-profit charitable institution may be exempted from income tax, pero there is a last provision. Merong last paragraph yung Section 30. Yun lang, dito lang nagka-problema yung St. Luke's. Kasi sabi sa last paragraph ng Section 30, notwithstanding the provisions in the preceding paragraphs, the income of whatever kind and character of the foregoing organizations, meaning yung kasali, yung charitable institution, from any of their properties, real or personal, or from any of their activities conducted for profit. Ayan, nakalagay dyan, class. any activities conducted for profit, regardless of the disposition made of such income, shall be subject to tax imposed under this code. Klaro, yung Section 30 of the NIRC, na even if you are organized and operating exclusively for charitable purposes, pero pag once na meron kang income na conducted for profit, in this case, from the paying clients no, of the hospital, regardless kung paano mo siya ginamit, subject daw siya to the tax imposed under the NIRC. Okay? Pero ma'am, let us parang i-reconcile natin yung decision ng Supreme Court with respect to De La Salle University, no? Kasi sabi natin sa De La Salle, 'di ba? For as long even if it comes from sources other than the purpose for which the organization is organized, no? For as long as you can prove that it is used for or actually directly and exclusively used for educational purposes, then magiging exempt siya from income tax. 'Di ba sabi natin, sinabi natin yan, or sinabi yan ng Supreme Court, hindi pala tayo nagsabi, kasi yung Supreme Court yung nagsabi, class, ha? Balikan muna natin yung, yung case of DLSU. Take note here na magkaiba yung DLSU case and the St. Luke's case because for one, DLSU is a non-stock, non-profit educational institution. Education ito. While St. Luke's is a non-stock, non-profit charitable institution. And second, dito sila nagkaiba. There is no similar provision with non-stock, non-profit charitable institution unlike for non-stock, non-profit educational institutions na merong express provision ng Constitution, particularly under Article 14, Section 4, Paragraph 3, sabi dyan, all revenues and assets of non-stock, non-profit educational institutions used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes shall be exempt from taxes and duties. So, no question, no issue na magkaiba talaga yung treatment for educational and charitable. Walang similar provision that accords exemption to charitable institutions. For educational institutions, i-prove mo lang na kahit na from profit sources, yung iyong income from paying clients, no? Like yung example natin na kunyari nagparenta ka ng ng building within the territory or the property of the school, even if pinarent mo yan for commercial purposes, yung income derived from the rent, pag ma-prove mo na ginamit mo siya actually directly and exclusively for educational purposes, exempted ka na. Okay? Pero for charitable institutions, iba yung ating treatment. Kasi kapag nagka-income ka from any activities derived from profit or derived for profit, regardless of how you use it, no? Regardless of its disposition, yan yung sabi ng last paragraph of Section 30E, sabi ng batas, dahil yan ay galing sa mga activities for profit, subject yan sa tax. Ngayon ang question natin dito, magkano yung tax rate na ginamit? The tax rate used here in this case is only 10% corporate income tax. That is the preferential tax rates, no, for proprietary hospitals that are non-stock, non-profit, ganon. So, yan yung ng Supreme Court. So 10% preferential kasi the regular corporate income tax right now is 30%, 'di ba? 30% siya. Okay, so that is for this case of St. Luke's Medical Center. And merong isa pang principle dito, class, that the Supreme Court emphasized. Kasi sabi ng BIR na dahil nag-engage ka for profit, nawala na. You lose your character as a charitable institution. Yan yung sabi ng BIR. Pero ano ang sagot ng Supreme Court? The Supreme Court said you are wrong. Mali ka, BIR. Bakit? Kasi even if a non-stock, non-profit charitable institution engages in profit activities, no, or activities conducted for profit, it doesn't lose its character of a charitable institution. Yung portion lang daw ng income niya na galing sa mga profit activities niya ang masasubject sa tax. Pero yung portion ng income niya na galing sa charitable operations, exempted pa rin yun. Yan yung sabi ng Supreme Court. Okay? I hope nakuha nyo yung principle na behind. Now let's proceed to another constitutional limitation, the non-impairment of contracts. This is under Section 10, Article 3, 1987 Constitution, which provides that no law impairing the obligation of contracts shall be passed. Anong ibig sabihin nito, ma'am? Take note here na yung constitutional provisions natin are or applies only with respect to or between the relationship between a citizen and the government. Diba? That's basic in your constitutional law. Na ma-invoke mo lang yung constitutional provision against the government. You cannot invoke it against a private individual. Kasi nga, yung provision natin sa Constitution, these are protection sa atin ng mga citizens against government abuses. So, going back to Section 10, Article 3, anong ibig sabihin nito? This means na kung yung government tsaka a private individual has a contract, meron silang kontrata sa isa't isa. Okay? Tapos sa kontrata na yan is that the government granted, let's say for example, a tax exemption or tax privilege to the private individual or private party. So, hindi daw pwede magpasa ang Congress ng batas that will impair that contract between the government and a private individual. Let's say, sabi dun sa contract na, okay, exempted ka from a certain tax for the duration of this contract. Tapos, bigla na lang nagpasa ng batas yung Congress withdrawing that exemption in that contract. Na lahat ng mga kontrata na in-enter ng government, this kind of contract, withdrawn na ang mga privileges and exemption. So, hindi daw pwede yun. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng no law impairing the obligation of contract shall be passed. Pero how do we illustrate this? Kasi baka kasi meron tayong jurisprudence that says na hindi lahat ng kontrata na in-enter ng government or hindi lahat ng grant ng government to a private individual or party will be subject to Section 10, Article 3. Ayan, so, like for example, this case of PAGCOR versus BIR et al., GR number 172087, March 15, 2011. So, anong nangyari dito, class? Before RA number 9337, what is this? This is the law amending the tax code, the National Internal Revenue Code. Nung amendment, nung pagpasa ng RA number 9337, the Congress removed PAGCOR from the list of GOCCs that are exempted from corporate income tax. Kasi noon, class, yung PAGCOR, kasali siya sa mga exempted. Just like local water districts, kasali yan, exempted yan from corporate income tax. Ano pa? PCSO, at marami pang iba. Okay? So nakalista kasi yan doon sa NIRC na may mga list of GOCCs that are exempted from income tax. Kasi the rule is GOCCs generally hindi sila tax exempt. Depende lang sa kanilang charter, meaning yung law creating them. Tingnan mo yung law creating them kung meron ba siyang mga tax privileges or exemptions na nakalagay. So, depende yan siya. If wala siyang privileges or tax exemption sa kanyang charter, then subject siya sa taxation ng government. Okay? So, Like for example, GSIS, meron yan silang charter, exempted yan sila. Same is true with SSS, Pag-ibig, and PhilHealth, no? Kasi may nakalagay sa charter nila. And other GOCCs, wala silang mga exemption. So ngayon, kaya itong NIRC, naglista siya ng mga specific GOCCs kung sino lang yung magiging exempted from income tax. Dati, PAGCOR is included from those GOCCs that are exempted. Pero, RA number 937, pagpasa nito, tinanggal nila yung PAGCOR. Nagalit si PAGCOR. Yan. Kasi, syempre no, pag magka-income sila, sino ba yung mag-benefit? Yung board of directors. Marami yan silang benefits. Ang yaman niya nila, di ba? So sila yung maghati-hati kasi imbis na ibayad nila ng tax, kasi they have the autonomy. Meron yan silang power yung mga board of directors. So ngayon, galit yung PAGCOR. They question the constitutionality of RA number 9337, stating that it is null and void ab initio, and they raised as a ground the non-impairment of contracts rule under Section 10, Article 3 of the 1987 Constitution. Sabi nila, RA 9337 impaired the right or the privilege of PAGCOR from exemption. The passage daw of RA 9337 operates as a withdrawal of the exemption and thus violating the non-impairment clause of the Constitution. So, pero true, tama naman na, tama yung sabi na bawal talaga magpasa ng batas to impair contracts entered into by the government with private entities or corporations or even GOCCs. That's true. However, okay, not all kinds of relationship that the government enters into with another party is covered by the non-impairment clause. Anong explanation ng Supreme Court? The non-impairment clause is contained in Section 10, Article 3 of the Constitution, which provides that no law impairing the obligation of contract shall be passed. The non-impairment clause is limited in application to laws that derogate from prior acts or contracts by enlarging, abridging, or in any manner changing the intention of the parties. There is impairment if a subsequent law changes the terms of a contract between the parties, imposes new conditions, dispenses with those agreed upon, or withdraws remedies for the enforcement of the rights of the parties. While the court has, not too infrequently, referred to tax exemptions contained in special franchises as being in the nature of contracts and the part of the inducement for carrying on the franchise, these exemptions nevertheless are far from being strictly contractual in nature. Contractual tax exemptions in the real sense of the term, and where the non-impairment clause of the Constitution can rightly be invoked, are those agreed to by the taxing authority in contracts such as those contained in government bonds or debentures, lawfully entered into by them under enabling laws, in which the government, acting in its private capacity, sheds its cloak of authority and waives its governmental immunity. So, there are specific contracts lang wherein mag-a-apply yung ating non-impairment clause. Yun daw mga contracts that wherein the government enters into in its private capacity, gaya daw ng government bonds or debentures. Truly, tax exemptions of this kind may not be revoked without impairing the obligations of contracts. These contractual tax exemptions, however, are not to be confused with tax exemptions granted under franchises. Yung in-enter ng government with PAGCOR is a franchise. Hindi daw siya contractual or hindi siya contract, no, in its strict sense, no, na contract, no. A franchise partakes the nature of a grant, meaning unilateral kasi yung franchise. Hindi siya bilateral. Dapat bilateral mag-apply yung non-impairment clause, which is beyond the purview of the non-impairment clause of the Constitution. Indeed, Article 12, Section 11 of the 1987 Constitution, like its precursor provisions in the 1935 and the 1973 3 constitutions is explicit that no franchise for the operation of a public utility shall be granted except under the condition that such privilege shall be subject to amendment, alteration, or repeal by Congress as and when the common good so requires. Because this is the reason, kapag nag-grant ng franchise yung ating state, merong kalakip na kondisyon yan doon sa franchise na subject siya to amendment, alteration, or repeal by Congress. So therefore, PAGCOR cannot invoke the non-impairment clause kasi yung binigay sa kanya ng state is a mere franchise, no? In this case, PAGCOR was granted a franchise to operate and maintain gambling casinos, clubs, and other recreation or amusement places, sports gaming pools, example, basketball, football, lotteries, etc., whether on land or sea within the territorial jurisdiction of the Republic of the Philippines. Under Section 11, Article 12 of the Constitution, PAGCOR's franchise is subject to amendment, alteration, or repeal by Congress, such as the amendment under Section 1 of RA 9377. Hence, the provision in Section 1 of RA 9337, amending Section 27C of RA 98424 by withdrawing the exemption of PAGCOR from corporate income tax, which may affect any benefits to PAGCOR's transactions with private parties, is not violative of the non-impairment clause of the Constitution. Next constitutional limitation is freedom of religion. The free exercise and enjoyment of religious profession and worship without discrimination or preference shall forever be allowed. So, parang connected din siya doon sa, di ba, sa real property tax, hindi pwede i-tax yung mga churches, di ba? Kasi, ano daw yan, that is for freedom of religion. Ayan, connected ito siya. Ngayon, let's have this case of American Bible Society versus City of Manila, GR number L-9637, April 30, 1957. So the issue here is whether or not the ordinances of the City of Manila numbers 3000 as amended and 2529, 3028, and 3364 are constitutional and valid because they provide for religious censorship and restrain the free exercise and enjoyment of its religious profession, to wit, the distribution and sale of Bibles and other religious literature to the people of the Philippines. So actually, nangyari dito, may mga ordinansa na pinasa yung City of Manila, charging mayor's permit and license fee doon sa mga nagbibenta ng mga Bibles tsaka mga religious literature, no? Gaya ng rosaryo, yung mga booklets, yung mga ganon. So gi-require sila na magbayad ng mayor's permit tsaka license fee. So, of course, nagreklamo, isa sa mga na-subject dito sa ordinance is the American Bible Society. So, they protested, no, the said ordinances, no, as violative of the freedom of religion under the Constitution. So, ngayon, ano ang ruling ng Supreme Court? It may be true that in the case that bar, the price asked for the Bibles and other religious pamphlets was in some instances a little bit higher than the actual cost of the same, but this cannot mean that appellant was engaged in the business or occupation of selling said merchandise for profit. For this reason, we believe that the provisions of City of Manila Ordinance number 2529 as amended cannot be applied to appellant, for in doing so, it would impair its free exercise and enjoyment of its religious profession and worship, as well as its rights of dissemination of religious belief. So, yung pagbebenta nila ng Bible and other religious literature is considered an exercise of freedom of religion. Therefore, hindi siya pwede i-tax, no? Because it will amount to censorship, no? Freedom of the press. So, press freedom, yung expression, di ba? No law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech, of expression, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. No? Like, for example, kanang mag-post kayo sa Facebook, for example. Mag-express kayo ng mga sentiments, no? Sa government. Itatax, pwede ba yan i-tax? So, hindi siya pwede, no? parang ano yung, what is the valid, parang ano daw, legal grounds, or ano yan? Yung test, di ba may mga test under, sa constitutional law ninyo? Ano nga yun? Dalawa yun di ba? Para ma-allow mo na i-infringe mo yung freedom of the press or freedom of expression, di ba? So may mga test yan na fina-follow. So, ano dito yung mga examples of violations of press freedom? Ito siya is newspaper, yung subject sa tax, okay? The law imposed a license tax equivalent to 2% of the gross receipts derived from advertisements only on newspapers, which had a circulation of more than 20,000 copies per week. So, ang kanilang classification sa taxpayer is advertisement na nilalagay sa newspaper, na yung newspaper na yan dapat more than 20,000 copies per week yung kanyang circulation. So, they question not only the violation for press freedom, but also the Equal Protection Clause, di ba? So, valid ba yung classification nila? Bakit yung mga advertisements lang that are printed on newspapers? Marami namang medium, di ba? Where we can advertise. Paano yun sila? Yung subject natin, advertisement, pero bakit sa newspaper lang? How is it different from those other advertisements na hindi sa newspaper, like sa TV, for example? Or doon sa billboard, for example, di ba? Tapos meron pang classification na 20,000 copies per week. So in short, ang nangyari dito, class, parang ilan lang yung mga newspaper companies, 13 lang sila yung na singled out. Kumbaga na sila lang yung affected doon sa tax na inimpose sa kanila. So, the Supreme Court here, this is a US case, Sabi ng Supreme Court, the tax was a deliberate and calculated device in the guise of a tax to limit the circulation of information to which the public is entitled in virtue of the constitutional guarantees, no? Siguro political yung reason, no, na yung newspaper na yan, baka maraming mga negative comment dito sa isang politiko. Kaya nagpasa sila ng batas, no? And then gusto nila i-tailored fit na ito lang sila talaga yung affected sa tax. So, in that case, there is no reasonable classification. Therefore, it constitutes violation of the constitutional limitations. Another example is itong case invoked by the PPI. Actually, class, itong examples ko, kinuha ko lang ito sa isang case. Kasi US cases ito. Wala tayong examples here in the Philippines na hindi ako nakahanap ng examples here in the Philippines na nag-apply yung press freedom. Okay? The press was also found to have been singled out because everything was exempt from the use tax on ink and paper except the press. Minnesota imposed a tax on the sales of goods in that state. To protect the sales tax, it enacted a complementary tax on the privilege of using, storing, or consuming in that state tangible personal property by eliminating the residents' incentive to get goods from outside states. Okay. So, ang affected dito na taxpayer is the Minnesota Star Tribune. Ayan. So, dati daw, exempted sila from 1967 to 1971. Bigla na lang, in 1971, nagpasa yung kanilang Congress imposing use tax on the cost of paper and ink used for publication. Parang anong sense? Bakit natin i-tax yung cost of paper and ink used for publication? Diba? The law was held to have singled out the press. No? Ito yung ruling ng Supreme Court because there was no reason for imposing the use tax since the press was exempt from the sales tax. And the use tax was laid on an intermediate transaction rather than the ultimate retail sale. Minnesota had a heavy burden of justifying the differential treatment, and it failed to do so. In addition, the U.S. Supreme Court found the law to be discriminatory because the legislature, by again amending the law so as to exempt the first $100,000 of paper and ink used, further narrowed the coverage of the tax so that only a handful of publishers pay any tax at all, and even fewer pay any significant amount of tax. The discriminatory purpose was thus very clear. Yung parehas lang sila na press, pero gilimit nimo to certain individuals. Gilimit nimo ba? Ano nimo, like for example, dapat naay threshold. So anong difference kung if it is a use tax for the use of paper and ink, dapat lahat ng gumagamit ng paper and ink for publication, dapat sila lahat. Pero they further classified it, no? Doon lang daw sa ang exempted daw yung nagamit lang ng first $100,000 worth of paper and ink. Parang wala siyang sense, no? Wala siyang anong sense bakit kailangan natin i-distinguish sila. So violative siya ng constitutional limitation on press freedom as well as equal protection clause. Now let's proceed. Origination of tax bills rule. Under Section 24, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution, all appropriations, revenue, or tariff bills shall originate from the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments. So, tatlo yung mga bills na kailangan initiated in the House of Representatives. So, punta muna tayo sa structure. Di ba? The legislative branch of the government, dalawa yan, dalawang houses. The lower house refers to the House of Representatives. The upper house is the Senate, di ba? So lower house, dapat ito dong appropriations. Ano yung mga appropriations? Ito yung mga budget, annual budget, di ba? Appropriations bill, ang tawag natin dyan, no? Revenue, ito yung mga taxes natin. Tariff, ito yung sa ating customs, yung mga import duties, okay? So, kapag ito daw yung bills na pinag-uusapan natin, hindi pwede yung Senate yung mag-umpisa. Hindi pwede siya ang mag-first initiate. Okay? So, therefore, yung ibang bills pala sa Congress, pwede pala yung Senate ang mag-initiate. Hindi necessary na nanggagaling sa House. Okay? Kasi strictly, ito na mga tax, mga bills, strictly dapat yung initiation must come from the House of Representatives. Okay. So, may mga issues dito. Ay, wala akong example. Pero magbigay ako sa inyo ng mga scenario. Ganito. Yung, for example, yung tax bill, nanggaling siya sa House. Okay? Yung House, gumawa sila. Let's say si Congressman so-and-so, nagpasa siya ng tax law, ay tax bill. Bill pa kasi yan, hindi pa yan law, di ba? Pag hindi pa approve. Ngayon, na-approve first, second, third reading. Pinasa sa Senate. Pagdating sa Senate class, yung Senate gumawa ng tax bill, similar yung title, parehas yung title, pero yung content magkaiba. Kumbaga, the Senate parang meron silang version, sarili nilang version of the tax bill, pero similar tax bill siya. Similar yung subject niya, okay? Question. I have a question. Balikan natin yung facts. So, later on, so merong Senate version, okay? Yung Senate. Question. Punta na pala ako sa question. Ang ano ko? Confusing. Okay. Question ko is, na-violate ba yung Section 24, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution? You answer in the chat box. Yes or no? Is there a violation of Section 24? Ay, sorry. Walang nagsagot. Okay. Ay, may nagsagot. No. Sabi ni Mr. Hindi ko lang sabi na pangalan, no, para privacy. Okay? No daw. What about the others? Anong sagot nyo? Yung iba, yes. May nagsabi no. Ayan. So, merong conflicting, tayo, di ba? Interpretation? Oh. Oh, majority, no. Okay. No, because Senate. Yan sabi ni okay, okay, okay. Okay, okay. Okay, the correct answer is no. No, hindi siya necessarily a violation of Section 24. Bakit? Ang importante lang, nagsimula siya sa House of Representatives. Hindi naman sinabi na dapat yung version ng House, dapat yun talaga in toto ang sundin ng Senate. Hindi pwedeng ganun. Why? Co-equal yan sila. Kahit na lower tsaka upper yan na houses, equal lang sila ng powers. No, hindi mo pwedeng diktahan yung Senate, and the Senate cannot also dictate whatever yung discretion ng House. Hindi pwedeng ganun. Yung House lang is that, parang ano siya, parang parang local yung kanilang perspective. Kasi, they represent, di ba, the districts, no, in the provinces. So, yung kanilang perspective is local. Yung Senate naman is national yung kanilang perspective. So, dapat, meron din silang independence, no, in deciding whether to concur or to amend, no, the proposal of the House. So later on, after nyan, paano kung may difference between the version of the House and the version of the Senate? So dyan pumapasok yung naririnig natin sa balita na bicameral conference committee. No, na merong members dyan na galing sa House, merong members na galing sa Senate, then mag-sit sila to reconcile the bill para yun na yung maging finalized bill na ipapasa nila on the third reading that will eventually be submitted to the President for his or her signature. So, ganun po ang ating proseso. So, hindi ibig sabihin na merong separate version yung Senate, bawal siya or violation ng Section 24. For as long as nag-initiate ng passage yung House of Representatives. Paano kung ganito? Merong draft na yung Senate regarding a tax bill. Meron silang draft. Nauna nag-draft yung Senate bago yung House. Pero, the House also drafted its own version. So ngayon, nag-process sila doon sa House. Question. Nagpa-process na sa House, eventually pumunta sa Senate, yung kanilang version, yung approved version ng House. Question. May violation ba? Unang gumawa yung Senate eh. Tapos, may ginawa din later yung House. Pinasas nila, then pinasa nila sa Senate. Question, violation ba, violation ba yun siya? Yes or no? Sige nga. What's your answer? Guess nyo na lang. Yes, yes. Violation na siya. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, the answer to that is still no. Hindi pa rin. For as long as hindi prinoses ng Senate yung kanilang version, like, meron lang silang pag hindi nila bypass yung process, hinintayin nila na umabot yung approved version ng House, saka sila nag-move sa kanilang bill, valid pa rin yun. Okay? Valid pa rin yun. Hindi siya violation. Okay? Kasi pwede kasi yung senator, mamaisip siya, manisip ako na batas, para maganda to. Ayan. So, ngayon, pwede siyang, ganito yung version ko. Pwede siya manligaw doon sa mga members ng Congress sa House of Representatives kung sino pwedeng mag-sponsor. So, pwedeng ganun, no? Na ginawa nila, no, na una, yung senator, meron siyang ginawa na bill, tapos para ma-follow niya yung procedure, pwede naman siyang mag-request ng sponsor doon sa lower house, sa House of Representatives. Para lang once na ma-follow yung process, hintayin niya ma-approve, ma-submit sa kanila before niya i-proceed yung kanyang bill doon sa Senate. Pwede naman ganon. In fact, sa local government units, most of the ordinances na pinapasa dyan, galing sa local chief executive yan. Akala mo naman, no, yung ibang mga konsehal, sila yung gumagawa ng kanilang mga ordinance. Hindi po. Yung iba, gumagawa sila ng kanilang ordinance. Gaya ko, gumagawa ako ng sarili kong ordinance. Pero, yung ibang mga ordinance namin, galing talaga, they are parang, requested by the local chief executive kasi kailangan sila sa operation. So, kaya nire-request nila na, can you pass this ordinance? So, yung draft sa kanila galing. So, kami lang yung mag-sponsor. Ayan. Kaya, iba yung author, iba yung sponsorship, di ba? So, ganon. Okay. Ngayon, concurrence of Congress on tax exemption rule. This is another constitutional limitation. Section 28, paragraph 4, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution provides that no law granting any tax exemption shall be passed without the concurrence of a majority of all the members of the Congress. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Yung Congress, yung ating state may power to tax, di ba? Inherent yan. Okay? Hindi kailangan nakasaad sa konstitusyon or sa kung anumang batas. Kasi automatic, upon existence of the state, meron talagang power of taxation. Yung mga provisions natin sa Constitution, ito ay mga limitations lang. Meaning, these are restrictions in order to prevent abuses. Ngayon, isa is, dahil may power yung state to impose taxes, meron din siyang inherent power to give tax exemptions. Ayan. So, the power to tax includes the power to grant exemptions. Doon yan galing, inherent din yan. Pero, anong sabi ng Constitution? Para hindi ma-abuse yung mga tax exemption rule natin, ay yung exemption natin, like kung ano-ano na lang yung i-exempt ng Congress, kailangan lahat ng batas na nagbibigay ng tax exemption, concurred siya, meaning approved siya of majority of all the members of the Congress. Take note, this is an absolute majority. Ano ibig sabihin, ma'am? Dapat lahat ng members, i-count mo yan, let's say sabihin natin, 200 congressmen. 200 sila kabuok. Whether absent or hindi, counted yan sa majority, 50% plus 1. So, hindi tayo magbabase sa mga quorum, no? Kung sino lang yung nag-attend. Dapat, based doon sa number of members of the Congress. Same is true pagpunta sa Senate. So, before yung tax exemption maging valid, okay? At mapasa. Yan ang isa sa mga limitation. Then, single subject rule on tax bills. Alam niyo na to. Every bill passed by Congress shall embrace only one subject which shall be expressed in the title thereof. So, terms like log rolling, riders, yan yung mga usual na pumapasok dito na mga issues, no, in this particular provision na hindi ka pwedeng, yung sa title mo, tax lang siya tapos may nag-add ka, may additional ka na provision doon sa body na hindi naman siya related doon sa title. So, bawal siya. So, ganun lang naman ibig sabihin nito, okay? Progressive system of taxation. The Congress shall evolve a progressive system of taxation, meaning to say, it must be based on the ability to pay theory. The more you have income, the more you are liable or you are required to contribute. The higher your income, the higher your contribution. Okay, so yan lang ibig sabihin ng progressive system of taxation. So hindi pwede na i-tax natin yung mga malilit lang yung income. So that's parang injustice, di ba? Injustice yan, okay? And lastly, supremacy of national government over local governments in taxation. Meaning to say, yung local government, okay, secondary lang yung kanilang, or kumbaga, although nasa constitution na yung kanilang power to tax, kasi nasa constitution, di ba, na LGUs have the power to raise their own sources of revenue. Constitutional na siya na power. Pero subject pa rin siya sa limitations, no, provided by law. Kaya nga, yung operation ng mga local government units is, kung gusto mong malaman, magbasa ka ng local government code. Kasi nandun lahat nakalagay ano yung taxes na pwedeng i-impose ng mga LGUs, hanggang saan lang. Kasi we have a lot of LGUs. Meron tayong province, meron tayong municipalities, meron tayong city. Paano natin i-treat for taxation purposes, considering like we say, province covers municipalities and cities. So, kailangan natin i-delineate yung kanilang authority. Hanggang saan ba ang pwedeng i-tax ng province? Hanggang saan ba ang pwedeng i-tax ng munisipyo, ng cities? So, nakalagay yan lahat doon sa local government code. And there is also a provision in the local government code na if a certain tax is already imposed by the national government, ang ibig sabihin yan, it withholds, no? The state withholds the right to tax a certain subject or thing from the local government unit. No? So, meaning, hindi pwedeng i-tax ng LGU similar tax na tinatax ng national government because of supremacy of the national government. So, parang there is a unwritten rule na kapag na-tax na siya ng national, ibig sabihin niyan, the national parang is saying na, oh, hindi mo na ito pwede i-tax ha, kasi kami na nag-tax ito. Parang ganon. So, yan ang isa sa example ng supremacy of the national government over local government. So, maraming nakalista yan. Like example, income tax. Local government units cannot tax income tax. They cannot impose that. Okay? At marami pang iba. Okay? Ayun. Ano pang mga examples? The case of Manila International Airport Authority, MIAA. This case was decided in July 20, 2006. Ano ito? Yung local government unit, nag-impose siya ng real property tax sa real properties ni Manila International Airport Authority. And the Supreme Court ruled in the negative, meaning the Supreme Court said na hindi pwedeng i-tax ng local government unit sa MIAA kasi MIAA is a government instrumentality. Kapag sinasabing government instrumentality class, parang ano siya kanang mura siya kamot sa national government. Kakibat siya ba? Murag instrument siya sa national government. Unlike GOCCs, yung GOCCs kasi, they have parang yung kanilang nature is meron silang autonomy, independence in their affairs, 'di ba? The national government cannot intervene parang whimsically sa operation ng GSIS for example, ng PhilHealth for example. Meron silang sariling governing body, yung mga board of directors nila, 'di ba? But for instrumentalities, they get orders from the national government. Gaya ng mga departments, for example, Department of Justice, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Finance, basta mga DD, DILG, etc. Yan sila, they are part of the national government. Instrumentalities yan sila. And therefore, hindi sila pwedeng i-subject ni LGU for taxation, no? Parang, murak, ano ba, maningil ka sa imong mama? No, parang ganon, no? So, hindi tayo pwedeng maningil ng utang sa mama natin, di ba? Okay. Maningil ng tax sa mama, ganon. So, ayan. Okay, that's an example now of supremacy of the national government over local government units. So that ends my discussion for constitutional limitations.